Welcome to America's Summit. My name is Neil Colley, and I'll be delivering on business intelligence at hyperscale. All right, so let's talk about the agenda real quick. So the agenda is going to be BI at hyperscale. So we'll be talking about the QuickSight from a QuickSight overview perspective, QuickSight and AWS data at scale, as well as distribution at scale, pricing at scale, and governance. And then we'll also have a demo, a capabilities demo for you as well. All right, so let's talk about the 5 value points as it pertains to QuickSight. So when we first released QuickSight, it was one of the first pay-as-you-go BI solutions in the marketplace. And what that means is basically you can provision to all your users and only pay for when they have usage, right? So case in point, if Chuck, Susan, and Raj are inactive, you pay nothing. If Chuck, Susan, and Raj log in 3 to 4 times a month, let's say 4 times a month, that's going to be $1.20 USD. And if they log in 1,000 times a day for a month equivalent, the max they're going to pay is $5 a user or $60 a year at list price. So extremely cost effective from that perspective. One of the fundamental things that we got right from the start with QuickSight was we built in the auto scaling and the serverless feature. So this simply means that there's no capacity planning to manage. You can simply scale out to whatever your users are. Whether you have 50 users this morning or 100,000 users this afternoon, QuickSight is just going to scale to whatever your needs are, right? So very distinct from that perspective and when you compare and contrast us against other tools. It's also deeply integrated across the majority of our data services and analytics stack. So that means you can pass permissions from the S3 and lake formation layer all the way to QuickSight. And then QuickSight also has its own custom permissions as well, like column level and row level security. So you have total choice from that perspective. Now, from an API perspective, one of our core tenets is the ability to embed into custom applications. For instance, so you can, whether it's an internal or external facing application, very simple to embed QuickSight into any of those business-facing applications. And the 5th layer here is our machine learning capabilities. And so we tackle that from 3 different perspectives, right? So the first is we use the random cut forest algorithm to do things like anomaly detection, forecasting, as well as natural language generation. So the random cut forest algorithm, which drives our machine learning at the base level, was benchmarked and created by Amazon.com. And so we've infused those benchmarks and learnings into QuickSight. The second layer of our machine learning capabilities is our deep integration with SageMaker. So this gives you the ability to not only do some churn analysis, but also lead scoring. You can also bring in some of your powerful algorithms and models into SageMaker and then visualize that with QuickSight, right? So very powerful capabilities. And then the last feature set, in which we'll be demoing and discussing, is our natural language query capabilities, right? So being able to ask questions of your data and get answers in seconds as well, right? So let's talk about how QuickSight works here. So, in this illustration here, you had Redshift. This could be SQL Server, Teradata, Oracle, to name a few. In the middle is your QuickSight user. So think about an author as a publisher, share, a creator. And then from a reader perspective, that can be anyone who is, consuming data, whether that's internal, IT operations and business, or external, meaning some of your customers consuming data in which you've served up to them as well, right? Now, there's 2 distinct ways to get data into QuickSight. So the first way is, of course, a direct query if you're looking for more of a real-time connection stream. But also, we highly recommend Spice from that perspective. And so Spice stands for our super fast parallel in-memory calculation engine. It's basically that columnar-based data store, caching layer, that's going to allow you to do a couple different things from a dashboard perspective. So the benefits, millisecond level response times from a dashboard perspective, and then it's also going to address any of those high dynamic concurrency report days that you have, whether that's Monday, Wednesdays, or if it's 24/7, Spice is going to be performant from that perspective. Now let's talk about insights delivered directly to your inbox. So QuickSight has the capabilities to basically deliver emailed reports, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly. Those can be sent to individual users or groups. It also gives you the ability to opt out, and it's going to incorporate that pay per session pricing. So case in point, as you look at the open QuickSight piece here, you would just simply click on that link, and it's either going to drive you back to the native QuickSight experience or actually back to embedded dashboard in which you've embedded QuickSight. Now, with QuickSight, you can create these beautiful, rich, interactive dashboards. It's going to have all the drill downs and custom theming and zooming that you need. It's also going to be accessible on any device, and it's going to be able to publish to everyone with one click. So a lot of value from that perspective. Now, in terms of embedding dashboards into QuickSight, you can leverage those new features as we add them. It's very easy to get started, so there's no maintenance. Again, it's going to incorporate that pay per session pricing, and it's also going to give you the ability to enhance your application with rich analytics and dashboards here, right? So a lot of customers, a lot of ISVs are using QuickSight from that perspective, and they're embedding QuickSight into their internal employee-facing dashboards, as well as embedding QuickSight to external, maybe revenue-consuming applications as well, right? And then from an ML Insights perspective, we talked about the ML Insights as it pertains to, the random cut forest algorithm in SageMaker. But it's important to point out, and what this slide is illustrating here, is the moment that you start building visuals with QuickSight, it's going to give you some of that unsupervised learning and serve up insights like period over period, any of the month-to-date changes or anomalous data, or even some of the forecastable things that it picks up within your dashboard, right? So it's just as simple as creating a handful of visuals, and then QuickSight's going to do that learning on that dashboard and then bring you a lot of the customized insights that the tool has to offer as well. Now let's talk about augmenting your data with ML from that perspective. So we have Q, which is part of our natural language query. We have the narrative pieces, which gives you the ability to summarize your business metrics in plain language. And then from an ML prediction perspective, you can bring in the power of SageMaker, and then also incorporate anomaly detection and forecasting where you see fit as well. Now, from an anomaly detection perspective, you can have these anomalies be curated and sent directly to your email inbox. And then what happens from there is once you click on that link, you're able to really drive into the dashboard and look at the contributing factors to see if it's standard, deviation from expected, things of that nature, right? And so you could really dive into the root cause from that perspective. And then the demo, Jesse's going to be highlighting a lot of this functionality as well. Now, this slide here is meant to illustrate our natural language narratives, right? So as you can see, it's calling out some of the forecastable data. So it really gives you a chance to kind of go above and beyond just kind of pie charts or bar charts. You can really look at some of the custom insights that you're able to write on the fly with QuickSight, and then take advantage of that, some of the automated insights that we find in which you can conditionally format and really tell a data-driven story. So powerful functionality from a natural language narrative perspective. Now, let's talk about the ML predictions, right? So this gives you the ability to remove some of that undifferentiated heavy lifting. It's point and click simplicity from that perspective. It's going to give you that faster time to visualization, as well as empower all your BI analysts to make use of models, right? And so typically this could take months for data scientists to kind of sift through and create these stories for you to kind of consume from a dashboard perspective. But we're taking that to the next level and giving you the ability to build predictive dashboards from weeks to hours, right? And then when we talk about Amazon Q, this is one of the areas we want to highlight because this is speaking to our natural language query capabilities, right? So, dashboards are a starting point, right? They can tell you something is wrong, but you don't know what is wrong, right? So in this illustration, we have a check engine light here. We've all had, different cars that we've had over the years. You see the check engine light come on. You have no idea if it's actually a cylinder that is, has issues, or if it's actually just some sensor data, right? So that's why you need, the capabilities that we're going to talk about. Simply put, from a dashboard perspective, we don't have a lot of, technical users. Or we don't have enough BI developers from that perspective. And so this functionality is going to give your non-technical users who need access to data the ability to search different metrics as easy as it is to consume things from a social media or a shopping online perspective, right? And so, in this typical challenge here, Dan is trying to compare sales trends in California versus New York. And so he's working with Amy and she wants him to submit a ticket, but he has an urgent need, right? And we've all ran through this scenario in which, we get these great curated dashboards that answer about 90% of the questions that we need in order to report on. But it's always that, those things that kind of fall between the cracks that we need to get clarity on. And so, Dan is trying to shrink that cycle from weeks or days to urgent, right? We're all kind of operating in an on-demand world, right? And so when you think about, some of the challenges, how we can help our business users get answers faster. So how can we take them from days to weeks? And, how do we enable business users to be more self-service from an ad hoc perspective? Because whether you're working at gigantic organizations or very small organizations, typically the BI teams are going to be thinly staffed, right? And the BI teams are often some of the most important and critical resources within the company. And so when you think about those key benefits, right? So let's highlight this. Natural language questions, the ability to ask questions in plain business language. And there's no need for syntax or to learn any special syntax. The ability to get answers and get those answers instantly. And, the ability also to ask about all of your data, not just a subset, but all of your data. And there's no need to specify from that perspective. So you can get started with QuickSight and QuickSight Q in just a few clicks, right? You're simply uploading the data sets that you want to query. And then with just a few clicks, you're going to be able to ask questions of that data. So what is Q, right? So Q is meant to empower any users from that perspective to ask these questions in plain language, right? And so we built in all of those key learnings that's going to make it easy for some of the hard problems that we're tackling, right? And then just kind of illustrate a little bit the problems that we're tackling that's been very tough for companies before our journey down this road is the query understanding, the ability to understand, show me weekly revenue in plain language and then get a question back. And then also the data understanding, right? The underlying tool, understanding the data, whether it's daily reports, weekly reports, and understanding the syntaxes regarding that to basically illustrate and get you that data back as quick as possible, right? And so when we talk about how Q works, it's as simple as intent recognition, intent linking, the data set selection as well, and then the intent representation from that perspective as well, and then the visual generation as part of that. So from a QuickSight and AWS data perspective, you can connect your data wherever it is, whether it's on-prem, so sources like Teradata, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, to name a few. From an in-the-cloud perspective, of course, our tools like Redshift, Athena, but also tools like SAP, Snowflake, and HANA. And then an ever-growing list of third-party applications like Adobe Analytics, Jira, ServiceNow, and Square, to name a few as well, right? And so some of the common architectures, if you still have on-premise data sources, using a direct connect, you can see connecting into Redshift, and then also, connecting into the QuickSight from that perspective, from a VPC perspective. And then one of the common architectural patterns that a lot of our customers are getting a tremendous value out of is the ability to put data into S3 to have it crawled and cataloged by Glue, right? And then have your choice of purpose-built query engines like Athena, Redshift Spectrum, EMR, to name a few as well. And then ultimately having QuickSight as that visualization layer, right, to consume that, right? So this is a tried and tested, very cost-effective architectural pattern that a lot of customers have gotten tremendous value out of, right? There's a lot of great blog posts out there regarding this serverless data lake architecture. Now, let's talk about other things. So we talked about S3 and Glue and Data Brew and then the ability to have QuickSight. But let's talk about the real-time analytics use cases that we have, right? So we now have connectors for Amazon Elasticsearch, which is a refresh window of every 60 seconds. And then our Amazon TimeStream database is actually real-time, and that's going to serve up the data for QuickSight to consume, right? So when we think about users at scale, right, this is one of our fundamental value props that's very unique to the marketplace, right? So in the left-hand side, the more data that you have, the more management, the more people, the more license and infrastructure costs that you're going to have. And then from a serverless architecture perspective, this is the value with QuickSight is very unique in the marketplace. It's going to scale, whether you have 10 users or hundreds of thousands of users. It's all you can eat in that 30-minute window. You can deploy with no infrastructure needed, and then it has all the session-based pricing baked into it. And of course, it has our native high availability and the resiliency baked into our architecture. Fundamentally, this is one of the most powerful capabilities of QuickSight among everything else that we talked about, because you want to be able to serve your business community, your operations community, and give them the reports and the dashboards they need on time, right? And then why Amazon QuickSight from a capacity perspective? So on the left-hand side, typically the more people that you're going to add in the illustration here in these architecture illustrations, and then you see QuickSight, with the vast scale from a compute perspective, and it's just simply serving up that data to your BI consumers from that perspective, right? Now, of course, we support federated single sign-on, so technologies like Ping Federate and Okta, to name a few. We have some great white papers that we can share and include as part of this deck. From a user management and AD integration, of course, we support there. And then from an enterprise governance perspective using folders, we support that as well. So whether it's readers, authors, administrators, we have support for that, and we can help you frame out the governance patterns that you need from a folder perspective, right? And give you a set of best practices there as well. Now let's talk about role-level security. So very key to QuickSight. So you can create these dashboards with multiple users with different roles and access levels. You can also centrally govern at the data set level. And this also works with email reports, right? So, the ability to incorporate that role level security as well as column level security, and it's going to work with your email report framework as well, right? And then let's talk about pricing at scale. So very unique in the marketplace. So we have the reader-based pricing that we talked about. Remember, if you're inactive, you don't pay anything. If Susan, Chuck, and Raj are active, let's say 4 times a month, that's $1.20 USD at list pricing. And if they're active 1,000 times a day for a month equivalent, the max they're going to pay is about $5 a user, which is about $60 a year. So we typically see that we're more cost effective than a lot of tools, anywhere from 50 to 60, 70% in some cases, right? And then our capacity-based pricing, which I'll get to in a second, is very unique, and we've just rolled that out. It's going to cater to a lot of the ISV and OEM use cases. And then our author pricing. Remember, our authors are publisher share creators. So that's $18 a month if you commit annually, right, to your users. And it's going to give you the ability to take advantage of all the things that we talked about, like the queue and the ability to author topics, also the ability to take advantage of the machine learning, as well as any of the theming and authoring pieces that we talked about and that you'll see in a demo here in a couple seconds or a couple minutes here. And now let's talk about capacity-based pricing. So we created the capacity-based pricing to basically work. A lot of ISVs and OEMs ask for this. And so from a list price perspective, capacity pricing can be defined as you buy a block of sessions from us from a pricing perspective at a discounted rate. And as you basically scale up from that perspective, we have a tiered pricing structure that goes along with that. Also, if you have any questions regarding our pricing, we do custom pricing as well. So happy to take advantage of that and reach out to us if the per reader cap pricing doesn't work, or this capacity-based pricing is interesting, but you want to look at maybe something more custom to your use case. We definitely can address those in one-off scenarios, right? So Thanks everyone for this part of the presentation. Now we'll be transitioning over to the demo. Thank you.
So imagine that you start your day with an alert that looks something like this. As Neil was talking about from the earlier part of the presentation, the augmented consumer expects insights to find them, right? They don't want to have to go searching for these type of interesting things in the data. So this could be either triggered by maybe something went over a certain threshold, or these can even be ML driven, where Neil was talking about that anomaly detection functionality, where we determine if it was statistically, significantly up or down. But nonetheless, I get some kind of alert like this that there's something that needs my attention. So in this case, my month-over-month sales is increased past the threshold that I had set. So that's great, but this is really just the start of my analysis, right? This is just that check engine light to say, hey, there's something you want to go investigate here. So from this email, I go click on View Dashboard, and that brings me directly to the dashboard itself. Now I can open this in my browser, I can open it on my mobile device as well. We've got native mobile apps that you can take advantage of. And immediately I can start to see some things that give me some answers to why that was up. So I do see that month-over-month figure right here in my KPI. I can see a little bit of that written out in that narrative form here. I see that maybe Mondelez might have contributed to this, where we found an anomaly in the data, where it's much higher than expected from a month-over-month perspective. I can see what we're forecasting sales to be, several periods out from now. I can see that in my narrative here, but I can also see it in my line chart. This orange part of my line represents the forecasted figures. So just highlighting some of the things that you saw on Neil's side of the presentation, where we have these natural language narratives, we have some of the forecasting built in here. But just to point out, these narratives are not just hard-coded text. It's not like someone went in here and typed all these out. These are really just other visual types in QuickSight. So, if I go make a selection here and I filter the whole dashboard to finance, not only the charts are going to update, but also my narrative. So, anywhere where we're doing forecasts or month-over-month changes, right? That it's updating everywhere where I'm making those filters. Whether that's a filter driven by one of the visuals, or a filter driven just by more traditional drop-down level type filters, lots of ways to interact with this dashboard. So let's go back to that alert that I had before. So sales is up past my $2,500 threshold month over month. I want to go drill into why that happened. So the most natural way for me to do that is I just go click on that number itself, and I say I want to go analyze the contributions to that sales figure. So by making that selection, this pops up what we call contribution analysis, which is a really powerful built-in feature in the ML feature set within QuickSight. So it shows me that the increase itself, but it now splits it by other dimensions that I have in the data. So I've asked it to split this by the customers I have in my data set, by the countries those customers are located in, as well as the products that I sell. So great, sales went up 6%, but what drove that? Why did that happen? So I can see that UPS and HSBC and Valero had some positive contributions to that. Costco actually reduced their spend, so they had some negative contribution. The UK had a lot of month-over-month increase in spend. Looks like my product, Big Ol' Database, is selling quite well as well here. So, right off the bat, I can see that it's mostly UPS out of the UK, but even these are interactive, right? If I go select the UK in one of these visuals, the rest of these bar charts on this dashboard are going to update as well. So I can see within the UK, what products is it? What customers is it? So just confirms kind of what we saw before, that it's really within the UK, it was UPS primarily buying a Big Ol' Database. So right from that alert, within a couple of minutes, I've really drilled into that and found the causation behind that increase in our month-over-month sales. So that answers, part of my question. But now it just really spurs a whole bunch of more questions for me, right? So I want to know, all right, it was UPS, but was that as a one-off occurrence? Is this a continued trend that we should expect to see? Who within UPS is driving those purchases? So again, I've got some more questions that I want to drill into. So the dashboard can help me with some of those, right? I could go find UPS in my top 25 customers here, and I could go make a selection and say I want to go see the sentiment for UPS. And that's going to bring me over to my second sheet here, where we're looking at sentiment analysis of the support cases that users from UPS have submitted to my company. So I can see mostly they're having a positive experience, but there are some support cases where there's some negative sentiment. I can see that mostly Harold and Valerie are having a good experience, but even as I drill into some of these, so I'm going to click on these support cases with positive sentiment from Harold, and I can see down below, maybe I sort this by the amount of days that they've been open. While he's having a fairly good experience with our software, there are some support cases that have been open for quite a bit of time. So, I might want to go take some action on that and open that ticket. Maybe go open that in Zendesk or Jira or ServiceNow, wherever I'm gathering this data from. But in this couple of clicks here, what I wanted to highlight is that you can drill down into more details into other sheets in your dashboard, but also highlight the power of using different AWS services together here. Right, so this sentiment analysis is done by hooking this data up to Amazon Comprehend, which is a machine learning powered service that does text analytics. So I can feed it raw text and it'll compute sentiment and extract entities, like am I talking about people or places or events, things like that. So we've run Comprehend on this data, dumped it back into S3, and then I've now visualizing that through QuickSight. So going from some data, say my sales data that's coming out of Redshift, maybe it's even coming out of my CRM like Salesforce, and drilling into other data sources coming from Jira that's now stored in S3, running machine learning on that data, and then visualizing that all through QuickSight. So that gets me, again, some more of my questions are now answered. So I can see that, a couple of users who are having a good experience from UPS. But inevitably, my dashboard's going to dead end at some point. And in this case, it's, I want to see, was this a one-off occurrence or was this an ongoing trend? And that's where Q comes into play. So as Neil was talking about earlier, Q is a way for any user to be able to ask questions just using natural language. So the search bar on the top is how you use Q. So I'm just going to start typing a question out here. So let's say, show me the monthly spend for UPS. And then Q is going to come back with an answer in the form of a visualization. So let's just pause here for a second just to appreciate what's going on. So first, a couple of things. UPS, we can see in this is called the restatement of my question. So it understand that I was talking about the customer called United Parcel Service, even though I had referred to it as UPS. So this is a synonym actually at the data value level. I asked for spend, where it returns sales. So this is where I'd added a synonym at the field level. Monthly, it figured out what date field I should pull my month from and how to aggregate that. So it's not purely just a faceted search, which is what a lot of other search tools do. Or a lot of other search capabilities and other BI tools do that may look very similar to this, but this is truly driven by natural language processing, not just by searching keywords. And to further illustrate that, let's do something like, maybe I want to compare UPS to someone else in their industry. So let's say compared to FedEx, and let's even add some more filters onto this for last year. So again, it understands that when I type compared to, that I should add more dimensionality into the visual. I should use that as a filter as well. Last year, it understands, so it can convert that into a date filter here. So again, making comparisons, adding additional filters here, and with a very natural way of asking that question. So I can see that it was pretty much a one-off occurrence, and it really wasn't just something specific to UPS. It looks like, maybe something within the transportation industry in general. So it's great. I found that that's other answer to my question, that it's not a one-off occurrence, or sorry, that it is a one-off occurrence. But now I want to take this even another step further. I want to know who within UPS. So who within UPS has spent the most? So again, just to drive that point home, that this is really driven by natural language processing, and it's not just a faceted search. Let's look at how it understood this question. So spent, it understood that I'm talking about sales in that standpoint. Who, I don't have a field called who in my data, but it understands that I'm probably talking about this contact name field. The most. This is also not something from the data. So it's figuring out that I should take it by the sales figure and rank those from highest to lowest. So you can see that this is really powerful, that it takes no skills to be able to take advantage of this. That's the whole idea, is that anyone could use it. Anyone can ask questions of data and get answers back in pretty much real time here. So just to take a little bit of the peek at the architecture behind this, I walked a little bit through this as we were doing that drill down to our support ticket data, but I've got some data coming out of my CRM, which I'm replicating that and piping it into Redshift. I've got tickets, my support ticket data, in this case coming out of Jira, but could be coming from anywhere. I'm pushing that to S3, then running some other machine learning services on that to compute the sentiment. Then bringing both of those data sets into Spice, which is an in-memory database within QuickSight, which gives you lightning fast performance. And then, of course, visualizing that through our dashboards, but also being able to ask more questions through QuickSight Q, which is that last piece that we highlighted there.
Thanks to my peer, Jesse Gephardt, so much for providing us that demo. It was a fantastic illustration of our framework of capabilities there. So now let's talk about some of the things that you can explore with us. So we have a myriad of options, from digital training. We have classroom training. We also have certifications and education programs. We also have our Demo Central portal that'll be available to you as well. And so this will give you the ability to look at our workshops and some of the trainings that we have that's self-paced, but also give you the ability to kind of follow along with us in some of our YouTube recordings. So we highly, definitely recommend that you take advantage of that. So thank you so much for, attending the BI at Hyperscale session. We highly encourage you to take advantage of the survey completion here, and please submit your feedback for us. Thank you.